when people say you have to want it, that doesn't really convey the idea of like enjoying the struggle. There's so much work, you lose a lot of sleep. That's why I wanted to reframe that idea as like it has to be fun and like borderline obsessive.
Is there anything you would like to improve on?
Analyzing Tekken in general, because it takes me so long. All of that kind of prep work, easily like an hour, hour and a half, and that's a lot of time. Misconception I had was that I had to be competitively strong to be entertaining. But the idea that I can just, my interactions with people can be funny. People enjoy getting coaching from me.
One eye is the first move!
That has been very validating. That is probably the coolest part.
Are there some things that you wouldn't compromise on?
We had an edit where like if you were in the stream, it made sense and it was funny, but coming from a YouTube perspective, people thought I was being mean. That's not really how I want to present myself. People are getting the wrong idea. What I've realized is that reading the comments is more a risk than a benefit. It affects my ability to continue putting out good product. I have to be careful, especially when it's controversial times for Tekken and people are looking for somebody to beat up, you know?
That's the interesting about content, right? It's you, but you don't get to control your own narrative anymore once you put the video out.
I am definitely a perfectionist when I get my attention on certain details. Having that much control and that much precision was destructive because I would never release anything. I would just keep editing it. So the biggest like kind of buff I think to enjoying the process was when I'm Phi, I go by PhiDX, and I'm a Tekken YouTuber and approaching a variety streamer, but mainly a Tekken streamer, yeah.
How long have you been doing this for, content creation?
Oh God, I've wanted to be a streamer for a long time. I think in college I streamed a couple times, like League of Legends. That was probably like 2016, so 8 years. But I think I started really streaming like regularly in 2019.
2019, so that was still like Tekken 7 era.
Yeah, Tekken 7.
Yeah. What inspired you to get back into streaming? Because I know you were trying to compete at the same time, right?
Yeah, so the main reason I wasn't consistent with streaming was because I was still in college and I was playing tons of League of Legends. So I streamed League, but I wasn't like being serious about it, like in terms of putting out YouTube videos and things like that. I was very much just grinding the game. And then when I got a full-time job, I could only play like 2 games of League a night. And so I was like, this is terrible. I can't like get a lot done. I can't get the reps in that I want to get. So that's when I switched to Tekken, was because I had just gone to a local and I felt like I could get way more games of Tekken than I could games of League. When COVID hit, it really gave me more incentive to stream way more because I couldn't go to the local as much, and they started opening a bunch of online tournaments. So I also saw streaming as a way to kind of like make sure, like kind of validate that I wasn't like cheating, because there was like cheating problems in Tekken 7. So I saw it as like twofold. I could compete, I could work on streaming, and then kind of figure out where the brand would go from there. But I wanted to just kind of start streaming because I thought it was really fun.
Gotcha. Was the intention to always like try to make something big out of it, or did you just do it to like, you know, turn on and see what would happen?
Yeah, I always was interested in some kind of career in entertainment. I think that aligns with me really well, just as like an artist. Like I've done music all my life. I've always been interested in like production, like the humanities and things like that. So I've always felt like entertainment was more up my alley. So streaming was very attractive for that reason, but I don't think I went about it in like very tactically smart ways until recently. I think that I was very much just going live and playing games.
Did you feel any type of pressure to like perform well while you're streaming? Like putting yourself out there and streaming and having like wins or losses, or sometimes like even a bad day can feel sometimes kind of nerve-wracking, and it changes the way you play. Did it kind of like mess with you a little bit trying to adjust?
I don't think so. I think the fact that I was doing it in front of people online didn't make a difference to me. It was kind of the same thing. I think that in some ways, it actually made it kind of easier. I think that adjusting to different pressures and in-game was usually harder. So like the presence of people probably made my practice less efficient, but it didn't affect me in terms of like performance, I don't think.
Just for context here, I'm also going to kind of speed run your history because there's so much information about your history before. I know you got in interviews before from some publications, and I think the Score Esports even made a video about you.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, and congrats, man. Like that's huge, right? I mean, going from, you know, kind of streaming League of Legends to where you're at now, like it's really amazing.
It was cool watching that video because they got some old clips from like when I was streaming in college, and I was like, where did they find these? Like, obviously they're still up on Twitch. I was just so surprised that they went that far back. So it felt really cool. It felt like they really took their time and like took a lot of care into it.
Yeah, and I know nowadays like you're way more into the content side than the competitive side. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Was that video being made of you like pretty validating?
It was. I think I honestly was more interested in the video when I was still competing. Like when I had my really good run in CEO 2023, I was
Mhm.
interested in a video then, but it ended up not happening, and I was like slightly disappointed because I thought it was a really good performance. But I'm kind of glad it didn't come out then because I felt like the one that came out now was way better. Part of the reason I went out of like competition as much is just because I didn't have a character in this game. Like I'm playing Lily and Steve, so and neither of them feel like my main character. So it's easier for me when you pair that with the content opportunities that came up. It just felt easier to like pretty much full send it on content. Like I still love competing and I like still want to go to tournaments and stuff. It's just when confronted with the time decision, it's easier to pick content.
Yeah, that's true. You've even adapted like a little monocle for your brand too, like Mainless King, I think, right? That's what you are on Tekken.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My Tekken username.
It's very fitting.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well too because I think uh, I started a series where I instead of like making character guides and because I don't like making character guides because characters change like with patches and I don't think there's any way I can become an expert on the character and kind of teach it holistically with like the progression of the player in mind. So I am very averse to making character guides, even for the characters I main. Like the only character I felt comfortable making a guide for was probably Noctis, and he's not in the game anymore. So for that reason, I started a series where I call it Fee Plays, and I literally just boot up the character in ranked with like some notes on like basic combos, punishes, and like situations, and I just let people see me mess around and play. And I think with that context, it turned it turned like ranked gameplay videos into a bit more value, like where it's like ranked gameplay videos, but I'm trying to narrate everything I'm doing
Hmm.
and give people a resource if they want to learn a character. And it's been going pretty well. It's just hard because there's 32, what? No, wait, 35 characters now. So
Yeah, there's a lot and counting, right? As the
yeah, yeah,
seasons go on.
exactly.
But I think that's pretty cool. Like that's something I usually like to advocate for too, right? Is just taking something that everyone does and then adding your own twist onto it, even though
Yeah,
it's a little bit. Because with you, you're a very analytical person, and you've gotten pretty good at voicing your thoughts too while you're playing, right? All those years of
right.
streaming. So it's like you get to teach people through your experiences without necessarily trying to position yourself as like that character expert.
Yeah, exactly. And my thought is that seeing the mistakes might be like validating, and then seeing how I overcome those mistakes might help people figure out where they're stuck. So it's a uniquely I think vulnerable thing to do as like someone with like a teaching authority. But I already have like such a reputation for like choking in tournament and like making mistakes. So it's like it doesn't feel like too vulnerable or anything like that. It's kind of funny.
I mean, it's pretty on brand, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious. There's always a concept, right, that my mentor taught me, and it's that if you really want to get good at something, you also got to know how to teach it too. Does that help you also learn the character faster than you normally would, or does it add any additional insight than doing it by yourself?
So two things. I don't think it makes me learn it faster. I think it's a separate or like a tangential skill to like
Mm,
talk about every single thing because when I talk about it, I'm not focusing on it as much. I'm spending more brain power on like turning these abstract things into words.
mhm.
Or I will be in fact, I feel like it's not a completely separate skill, but turning my on-screen stuff into like a story or like a rational thing like with the through line that people can follow. I think that is the hard part of those videos, right? And playing at the same time. So I don't think it makes my play better. I think it's actually going in the opposite direction. But because it's at like medium ranks, I can often get by. It doesn't really help, but it doesn't hurt too bad either. It's like a separate skill, it feels like. I'll also say that I feel like there are so many examples of people who can do but like can't teach. So Like there are so many, especially in Tekken, there are so many people you ask what they did, they'll be like, I was just doing stuff, you know, like they don't know why. So I feel like in Tekken specifically, it's a different thing. And I think that's the reason my series is working so well is because there aren't people doing this outside of like on stream. But you don't see a lot of videos of people fighting and narrating every single thing they're trying to do, and then some of the meta thoughts as well, and then tracking what the opponent's doing. I think it's kind of it exists, but usually just in like stream VOD form. So
Right, and people have to like
it's
sift
slightly
through
different.
it. Yeah. You ever seen that meme? I'm pretty sure you've seen the meme, right? Where in the beginning, it's the bell curve. In the beginning, the noob is
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
just press buttons, and then you think
yeah,
about frame data and everything, and the very end, the pro is like, just press buttons.
yeah, yeah. And I think Bruce Lee said something like that. He said like when I was I don't know if it was him, but he at least quoted it. He said like when I was a beginner, a punch was just a punch, and then when I was a student, like a punch is way more than a punch, and then when I became the master, a punch is just a punch, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's the same concept. Like I am engaging with that a punch is way more than a punch. Like I'm doing way more than just hitting buttons. But in my own play as a like competitor, I am moving more towards that just like I'm just hitting buttons, right? So it's like it's a tactical like step back because I think it's educational. But yeah, as a player for myself, I don't think it's like it's not how I would spend my time if I were not a content creator.
Very true. Okay,
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Has your competitive experience helped you with like creating content? I see a lot of parallels. When especially whenever I'm personally coaching content creators that are in the FGC, I can make these metaphors that like it makes sense to them. You know, like learning a platform is like learning a character, and then you can lab how to make a
Oh
good
yeah.
YouTube video all day, but if you don't actually go into playing the game, which is actually making the video, like you're not actually gonna know how to do it. Things like
Yeah.
that.
I'm not sure. I think that I've always seen competition as like getting my name out there, right? Like if I do well in a tournament, people will know who I am and then I can make more content and like have more natural attention that way. That was probably like there are so many flaws to that perspective, but I think that that was how I went about it when I was playing League. That's how I went about it when I was playing Smash. It was like I want to be a competitor so that I can become a streamer, right? It was very foreign to me the idea that people would be interested in watching me for me until like 2022, maybe 2021, right? For me, they were so closely linked. It was like good competition equals attention equals streaming. But then we saw tons of examples where that wasn't necessarily the case. Like Arslan Ash's YouTube has tons of subscribers because his name is out there, but the engagement is pretty low just because he uploads like straight matches, right? So, and then like Brawl Pro, not a tournament player, but huge engagement just from him playing the game and being entertaining. So my perspective has shifted a lot the longer I've been doing this. In terms of how being a competitor has helped, yes and no. I think that there are things like not blaming the game that I think is big, right? For example, if a video is not doing well, it's not the algorithm's fault. It's not my audience's fault, right? It's a game that you have to understand like the mechanics, the rules, and then how you interact with it to succeed. So obviously, luck is still always a factor, but I think that looking at it as a game in that sense, like I learned early on in League of Legends that like you're not supposed to blame your teammates, you're supposed to just be better, and so that mindset has probably worked really well for me. It can be negative at like times, but I think that it ultimately pushes me in the direction of doing better in content and in everything. So yeah, that
Yeah.
perspective has probably helped the most.
I asked you beforehand if there was something that you wanted to talk about. You wanted to reframe, you have to want it as fun and borderline obsessive. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's true for both being a competitive player and also a YouTuber. Or I guess like anything in life that you want to be good at.
Yeah, I think that there's that manga panel. I think it's Baki where he's like, someone who works hard will never beat someone who like is having fun, right? And I think it's just very hard to capture the amount of effort and like the amount of reps and the amount of like improvement you have to make by being obsessive about it. And people usually frame that as you have to want it, but I think especially in the age of now with like the internet and like a lot of targeted algorithmic stuff that kind of like influences what we want. I think there's like I don't know if it's a book or like a philosopher or even a scientist, but I heard like somebody mentioned the idea that our wants are like mimetic, like we inherit our wants by influence of other people and ideas. Like it's finding our actual authentic wants and desires is actually kind of difficult. In the same sense, whether or not that's true, I get the sense that like when people say you have to want it, most people will go into streaming or like competitive games thinking they want a certain thing, like a high rank or like doing well, but they want the result more than they want like the process and like the entire thing. So when people say you have to want it, that doesn't really convey the depth and the difficulty and the idea of like enjoying the struggle, you know?
Hmm.
And I think that that's why I wanted to reframe that idea as like it has to be fun and like borderline obsessive because it's a huge stamina tax. There's so much work. You lose a lot of sleep. Things sometimes make sense, things sometimes don't, and you have to like stay so flexible that yeah, you have to want it, but I would say it has to be like a fun obsession. It's kind of the way that like most people don't just make a startup. It's like you like the effort required to start up a company is so high you have to really believe in your product or yourself, right? So I see content creation as really similar.
Yeah. Have you ever struggled to find the fun at times? Because I know that there's a pretty high demand from people, the viewers, right? The community. But I also know like you have pretty high demands for yourself.
I think when I hit my stride, like realizing, so yeah, I would, yes, absolutely. I am definitely a perfectionist when I get my attention on certain details. So the early days of editing my videos, especially because I think I had the capability to edit to a very fine detail. I used to do like editing for my own like YouTube like music covers and stuff like that. So having that much control and that much precision was like destructive because I would never release anything. I would just keep editing it, and I would start doubting like the cadence of my speaking. I would sometimes do videos where I did like the aggressive YouTube cuts of on my voice, and sometimes videos where I would just speak. And I couldn't decide which I liked better because it kind of depended on how I felt that day. And I couldn't like commit to one thing. So it's as an edit like editing my own videos was a struggle because I wasn't able to kind of set the administrative part aside, right? Of like, how do I want to sound? It kept getting mixed up. So the early days when I was editing my own content, like Tekken 7 1 minute matchups or cutting stream footage, it was super difficult. Not because of the time spent, but because of that going back and forth on how I want to craft my image. So the biggest like kind of buff I think to enjoying the process was when I got put onto like Gotham chess and seeing that his style of video is quite literally him hitting record and talking. And sometimes he'll edit in a sponsor segment or like an intro to a stream clip, but it's mostly uncut. And when I tried that format on a video of me fighting JDCR in a first to two online, and it did well, I was like, oh, this is huge because I no longer have to go into that pipeline or wait for an editor to finish something. Even now, when I have like go back and forth with an editor, the hardest part of I think daily content creation is reviewing what the editor sent me with a like jumping between the my lens and the audience's lens, right? So I hate that part of the process the most. So the fact that I can do one take stuff and like people enjoy it is probably the biggest like blessing. Like thank God. Most of my videos I don't even watch like after the fact because I'll
Mm.
get really picky about how I said a certain thing, how my cadence was, if my voice didn't inflect the right way, right? So like I very much didn't enjoy the nitpicking of myself process and the fact that I can get away with doing uncut content and people like it. I feel super lucky about that. The one thing that I also didn't really enjoy, but I'm glad I did, was my beginner guide. So like when Tekken 8 had like early beta footage or and we were waiting on the release, I was putting together tons of clips and information and stuff like that, and that edit took I think like 2 weeks of like straight editing. And I remember redoing multiple parts, like explaining how frame data worked to a beginner. I redid that explanation like 3 times and re-recorded tons of stuff. And I was way past my initial deadline of wanting to release it really early, but I also didn't want to put out something that wasn't like perfect, right?
Mhm.
So that was one case where I'm really satisfied with what came out, but it's a grueling process and it's horrible. So I'm sure most people can relate to not liking to edit their videos, and I think there are different tolerance levels for perfectionism. There are points in my life where I was really comfortable editing my own stuff and I was really in the flow, but historically, yeah, that's the hardest part because any dip in my mental would lead to like would result in a dip in the editing workflow.
Yeah, I noticed that there is an internal struggle a lot with creators, right?
Yeah.
There's the business side of like you have to get things done, you gotta just put it out there,
Yeah.
and you let the audience, the market decide whether the
Right.
product is good or not, right? And then there's the artist side of you, where you're looking at it and you're like, I don't like the way this looks. I don't like the way this is cut. When this is all just subjective, personal preference that may not even impact the video at all because it is your
Yeah.
baby, right? And in
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
figure out the balance between doing that, it's so tough that I think you've done something that is really hard for a lot of creators getting past I guess like maybe if we want to use the Tekken analogy, right? Getting past maybe like red ranks into what is it, blue necks or is it purple?
Purple. Yeah. Yeah.
Purple. Is that they have to like let go. They have to, and I think that's what you were able to do. You don't look at your video anymore, and you just have editors to help you out now, and you're like, okay, you know what, this is good enough. I can just do it straight cut, uncut, and upload it, and I'll be okay with it because that's what works.
Yeah, I think it also depends on the type of video. There are some videos of mine that I think are funny and I'll go back to, but the like general daily like the standard form of content, yeah, I don't revisit most of them actually. And the really old ones I don't revisit either. Like the coaching session I did with Patty,
Mhm.
I watched it back with her because she really wanted to watch it and she was loving it, but I was like I don't like that edit. I don't like this. I don't like this. So I was like, I can't watch this. It was like funny because our experiences were so different. But it's like you said, there's the artist and then there's the like business side of it. I think both have to coexist. I think it's actually a good thing. Like in the music industry, the like main like form of distribution or how the publishers move often affects the artists, and you can see it in like how when TikTok music blew up, you can see it in how artists put out really short music that's really really repeatable. So the medium often affects the art, and in the same way with YouTube and content creation, I think having this daily requirement influences how I create, influences how probably tons of people create. And I think it's kind of a good thing. I think it's like that interplay is like I think some people probably wish they could remove like the deadlines or remove the need to upload, but I think the result that comes from that is interesting to me. Like even if we don't often see or like the result, I always have liked that interplay between business and the art that comes out of it.
Yeah. Are there some things that you wouldn't compromise on that you just won't?
Um, Most of the time, yeah. I mean, if I say something completely wrong or like my brain like zones out or like I stop talking, then I might like redo it, right?
Mhm.
Unless it's late in the video and there's like something happening on screen. So, kind of like earlier in the podcast where I like completely like zoned out on like how I started streaming. If it were my video, I'm like, we're starting over. That's not happening. So that's one example. Otherwise, misinformation to a certain degree, like I try to correct. Like if I say something wrong, I'll pin a comment and try to correct it.
Mhm.
But if it's like multiple egregious errors or an edit we had an edit where like my audio track got doubled, so I had to re-release the video. That's like my worst. Like that was like I didn't want to have to re-release it, but the audio experience was so bad that I was like, we have to do this. Um, I had another video also where it was if you were in the stream, it made sense and it was funny, but coming from a YouTube perspective, people thought I was being mean. So like that was another video that I had to like re-release where like Basically, I was playing a ranked game and like I was trying to figure out something and I was struggling, and a dude was asking really vague questions,
I
and so I like
remember
roasted
this.
him. Yeah. I roasted him about that, and then I coached him after. Like I kind of gave him direct help, and he appreciated it. And he felt good, but everybody watching on YouTube, it's a different audience. They don't know me. They don't know the stream vibe. They were like, this guy was just being a dickhead for like 10 minutes, and then like felt bad about it, so decided to coach him. And I was like, that's not really how I want to present myself. People are getting the wrong idea, so that's why I re-released it. I still like stand by like I think what I did on stream. I just understood at that point that you have to package things differently for different audiences sometimes. And ultimately, that guy even came back in later videos and talked about being promoted, and like he was really glad that like I helped him regardless of that initial response. So I think we left on a really positive note and continue to have positive interactions. It was just people who weren't in the group that looked at that and were like, that was messed up, you know? So that is those cases of like misinformation or like misrepresenting myself are probably the only cases I'll like re-release something, and then like bad audio or a bad edit or something. But the bad edit or whatever is usually if I didn't proof watch it like with a like deeply enough, you know?
Gotcha. So it's mostly like very egregious mistakes that like that kill the um experience of the viewers. You know that make it really bad, or if it's just you know something that needs reframing. Because that's the interesting
Yeah.
about content, right? Like philosophically, there's like it's you, but you don't get to control your own narrative anymore once you put the video out.
Yeah.
And there's so many narratives that get spun about you once it's out there, and like no matter how well you edit, because you only could see it from you and the editor's perspective, but then once you put it out there, everybody can interpret that differently.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is a blessing and a curse in a way. Like things can get hype that I didn't expect would be hype, but also, yeah, like things can go out of control. It doesn't happen often. I think that was the last time that happened, and that was like 6, 7 months ago. So it's mostly a good thing, I think, that people have gotten excited about my content in ways that I didn't expect. It's why I can do uncut content. I didn't expect there to be a market for that, just because it's not that I don't like listening to myself talk. It was more that I didn't think that was just a successful style of presenting my information, right? Like, I look at Brawl Pro, he does tons of like aggressively cut funny moments. I thought that like that was probably the meta. But upon reflection, if you look at like the main man for Tekken, Gotham Chess, there's tons of like demand for like almost podcast style presentation where people can like have lunch and put on an episode of something, right? So to that end, uh, I'm kind of glad that like things can take on a life of their own, because it has led to things that have helped me a lot that I didn't expect.
Yeah. Is there anything about the way you're doing content now that you would like to improve on? And I'm only thinking about this because you use the music analogy for TikTok, right? It used to be, and if we're talking about metas, like in terms of content, the meta for music used to be like long,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
longer duration for songs, right? You had
Full
like,
albums, yeah.
yeah, and you had like a bridge and everything like that. Sometimes a music so like a you know a solo from the guitar. Because everything is short now. Songs are more like 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
You know, two verses and like you're good and you're out. You kind of have to adhere to those rules of like what the viewer preference is. Is there anything that you wish you could add on a little bit more if you could?
Yeah, I don't think it's the content itself necessarily. It's more like I want to leverage short form more because I think it's so untapped, and I think that I want to do more videos that are like sub 20 minutes. So I have my standard analysis, which can run anywhere from 25 to 40 minutes to an hour, depending on how long the set is. I want to be able to give people information in like shorter doses, and something I've experimented with the Esports World Cup is like selectively abridging matches. Like I'll watch a match, look for kind of a theme, and then hand pick rounds from it that still convey that story, right? Like there was a set in the Esports World Cup where Jod from France playing Nina was winning a lot through chip damage, applying pressure with quick pokes, and then like pumping the brakes a bit because he was fighting a Brian, and then would get a huge punish. So I didn't have to show every single round for that. I just showed like maybe 4 rounds instead of all 6, or what? Yeah, 5 rounds per match. So I would skip like a couple, and it would work really well. And then there was other moments where it's like the single setup worked like 3 times. Like so I time stamped those parts and put it in like Chrome tabs and would jump between tabs instead of like doing it in post because I think that it allows me to do kind of like a live sports analysis type thing, which I
It
thought
feels
was
more
really
dynamic
cool.
to the audience.
Yeah, but it was so hard to prepare, like just watching the match over and over and over again, choosing what to cut, choosing what to keep, kind of simulating the presentation part of it, and then finally recording it without messing up. That was hard because when I imagine presenting it, I don't imagine speaking for the whole duration of time. So to me, time passes faster. I can jump to that moment and show it. Then when I hit record, I realize there's a lot of downtime and my talk is kind of improvisational. So sometimes I'll be improving and then the moment will come and I'll miss it, right? So like it's been a fascinating challenge. I love the style of content that comes out of it, but it's so hard to do that I want to get better at that. And I also want to get better at analyzing Tekken in general because it takes me so long like to do a the video comes out pretty short or like relatively like 30 to 40 minutes, but the actual prep work sometimes I'll have to watch the same first to two for like 2 hours, and that's a lot of time. So I almost
Yeah.
wish I could like analyze at double speed or like improve my analysis so that I don't have to watch the set over and over and over again to pick up everything I want to talk about. So those are like improvements I think that aren't immediately obvious to the viewer maybe, but I think would still result in a better product and a better process for me. So yeah.
Can we talk about that, like pre-production, like how
Yeah.
much effort that has to go into preparing yourself to make it look like that you just already know what you want to talk about?
Yeah. No, I would love if it were actually the case that I just spend 30 minutes watching some Tekken, make a thumbnail, and then I'm done. But no, I have to like kind of scout the sets. Is it interesting? Like people are tired of seeing Dragonov. Like I try to avoid Dragonov matches, right? Like, is the Tekken inside it cool? Are the players like non-controversial? Is it an exciting set from beginning to end? Is there a lesson I can express with it? Um, all of that kind of prep work easily like an hour, hour and a half, and then watching the actual match and trying to package it and see how I want to talk about it. Another hour and a half. Recording usually I can get it in 1 to 2 takes, depending if I'm on or off stream. Uh, and then the thumbnail I have to have in mind before I record because I want the title and thumbnail I think influence well, title and thumbnail are everything because it gets people to
Right.
click. And then in the recording process, I need to call back to that, whether it's just in the intro and outro or if it actually is the theme I'm teaching. I used to do the video first and then trying to reverse justify a thumbnail wouldn't often work. People were getting upset that like they didn't feel like the video spoke to the title and thumbnail. So doing the title and thumbnail first, or at least having a strong vision of what that would be, was kind of crucial, right? And so in my pre-production process, it's often watching the match, trying to construct a title and thumbnail, but and then recording and then kind of like putting it all together. But yeah, title and thumbnail are everything, and I think that that's what makes the pre-production take so long.
Yeah. And for people who don't necessarily understand the concept of why you're talking about how important packaging is, it's because if people don't click, they don't watch, right? So you could spend 3 hours trying to make the best video ever, but if it doesn't look interesting, like all the effort is going to be wasted.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The title and thumbnail are everything.
It's ridiculous, and even the idea too, right? Because the title and thumbnail could be good, but if the idea is just kind of like it's hard to make a good title and thumbnail out of. So like there's just this flow, this process that you have to go through. You know,
Yeah.
you do your research. You're like, is this a good idea, right? And you probably have like checks, like this is this Dragonov? No, right? Is this controversial? Is it too controversial? Maybe let's not talk about that.
Right. Something that helped me also is I use Google Slides for my thumbnails
Uh-huh.
because I can work on it anywhere, any system, and I'll have everything. And I can do like quick iterations, like even with like Photopea, like the free web-based Photoshop.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can get laggy. Sometimes the process like slows down. There's a lot of control, but there's a lot of ways to kind of like mess up or slow yourself down too if you're not super proficient. So I have a really weird setup where my Google Slides, I like am so comfortable making copies, like making small edits, like to do like the glow around like people or characters. I'll like crop them, paste the character again, and then turn the brightness all the way to 100 so that they're all white, and then
Hmm.
like lay it behind them. So like
Dude,
it's so
what?
janky. It's so janky, but it works so well. And in a few situations, I will go into Photoshop or talk to my thumbnail editor to get like characters cropped out better or to do certain fade effects that I can't do. But yeah, like 99% of my like thumbnails are in Google Slides.
Bro, you're so funny. I've never heard of anyone doing thumbnails in Google Slides. I wish I gotta tell Winnie later. She's probably gonna lose her mind.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I use Canva, and Canva, like, maybe you might like it. I'll try to talk you into it. Maybe it'll make things a
Sure.
lot faster for you. But
Yeah,
damn,
somebody said it's like I'm driving a manual car. Like it's like I'm good at what I do, but it's definitely less efficient.
yeah,
It's just like it's so fast, and the accessibility from everywhere is something I love too. Like I can hop on like a library computer theoretically and like do all my thumbnails if I needed to.
right, because it's all web based. It's fast, right?
Yeah,
Everybody
it's
has, yeah, it's
so
Google.
fast. Like I love how fast it is, and every time I feel like something doesn't work, I've been able to come up with something for it. With like a quick photopea edit, like certain glow effects or certain fades, and I'm like, sweet, so I can just do that and then put it in slides.
Okay, okay. I have to ask you, where did you learn how to get better at content? I think that's one thing a lot of people are probably wondering because you know your life, but to other people, you can and probably do look like an overnight success. Like you just blew up out of nowhere, right?
Right.
First, you were just kind of streaming. I remember when I hopped into your streams before, like way back in the day, it was like 20 viewers, right? You trying to like mess with your sticks and check, checking out the lever tension and all that stuff like that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they think, oh, you beat Arsenal Nash, and that's probably why you popped off on stream. But I know that's not the case. So what do you think okay, sorry, so many questions here. My brain's just going fast. First, let's talk about what do you think contributed to your growth as a YouTuber? So like we get the answer straight from the source, and then we could talk about how you learn to improve as a creator.
There was a period of like 6 to 10 months where I talked to Speedkicks every day about YouTube, like, and like my platform. So literally, he has a knack for understanding how the YouTube game works. He's a nerd. So they literally just talked to him about it. Like I would put out a thumbnail or like make a thumbnail and we'd like talk about it, or like a title and thumbnail, and kind of like theory craft it. And then what shifted everything was that first to two with JDCR video. It was where I kind of did the Gotham chess style for the first time. And he said, you can spam this format. We had tried so many different things like ICFC recaps with intros and outros. We watch a lot of Fortnite content, and we looked at like Jivin a lot. He does like educational gameplay and like tutorials and stuff like that. And he does like the style of like post-production narration, which I think is one of the hardest styles to do for me at least, because it takes multiple passes. You have to edit the content and then put the narration in, and to me that's really hard like to nail. So I've dabbled in it but never really committed to it. It's something we're looking at again for like some coaching videos. But yeah, when we got to run that first Gotham chess format, it worked really well. When the former Evo champions came to the US for the Evo showcase, and I ran that format back and it did so well. That worked well. That was like also very promising.
Was that the janky hotel room story?
It was the janky hotel room story. So combine those two things, the like constant like grinding with speed kicks on different ideas and thumbnails, and I'm lucky that he understood it so well, because I feel like there are so many ways I can get lost in general in like everything I do. So having that kind of bouncing point was really helpful. And then once we found a format that worked, that's when I just kind of spammed it. And at that time, I think I did watch my videos more, like the one take uncut analysis, and tried to see where I could improve it. And there were a lot of like micro improvements, like adjusting. I have like a sliding scale of how much I can ramble. So figuring out the sweet spot there, and it was kind of subjective, and depending on the video, sometimes I'll ramble more. Like right now in our podcast, I'm like super ramble mode, but like sometimes in an analysis video, I'll try to like stay to the point as much as possible. Like I'll have my notes I display on screen, and then I'll have like a regular notepad to like remind myself where I want to be, like where like what topics I want to be on. Probably stuff from like doing speech tournament stuff in middle school, right? Like
Oh shit, I
not
didn't know
writing
that.
out. Yeah, I mean the school kind of required it, but it was like I wasn't writing specific. Sometimes I write specific lines I want to say if I think it's a banger, but otherwise I just write like little bullet points of like topics I want to make sure I cover, and that kind of flow has been working ever since. Like I make adaptations where I can, like the new Esports World Cup format where I cut some matches and do like live tab jumping. But yeah, mostly that format has worked for me. I think I stole that idea from Brian F. Brian F does tons of like tournament coverage where he just shows like
Hmm.
one round and he jumps between tweets and tournaments and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Like, and my brain was going, it was making all these connections to competitive play too.
Yeah.
Because you were just basically like trying to figure out what's your set play, right? Like
Yeah,
what
yeah,
buttons
yeah.
work the best for you, and you figured out, oh shoot, this button works, right? Which is the format, and you like
Yeah.
just spam it, and
Yeah,
because it
exactly.
works.
And then you get to see when it works, when it doesn't work, and you refine it by naturally hitting that button over and over and over again. So I think, yeah, I felt that was kind of the very clear like green light moment was that getting that format to work. And then yeah, still watching tons of Gotham Chess and Brian F and Main Man and watching other content to see what I can branch into because as much as this format is working, I anticipate there will come a time where it gets dry or like people aren't interested. So I'm constantly naturally researching just to see what is interesting to me, what can I do, what can I talk about, and I'm pretty optimistic about um, being able to continue and adapt if needed. But yeah, I like doing this style. It's very fun for me. It's very enjoyable all around. So I hope it stays around for a while.
Okay, so where did you learn how to improve like YouTube besides Speed Kicks? I know Speed Kicks was kind of like your training partner, right? You guys got to watch a lot of
Yeah.
replays together, pretty much keeping with the analogy, and you guys were like labbing things. But were there any specific sources that you went to learn, or did you only learn by watching other successful YouTubers?
Harris Heller and Ludwig, I think, put out some like pretty good content about becoming a streamer and a YouTuber, right? Like they put me on the idea that Twitch has no discovery, so you need to like be uploading to YouTube. So I liked those a lot. And Harris Heller has tons of like tech content too, which is naturally interesting to me as well. So those were the other resources. But I found that a lot of like there were a lot of it felt like self-help content creators in terms of helping other people create content that I felt like were either misleading or not very like direct and to the point. That was where when I found your tweets, I was like, "Oh, this is super on point." Like I was really enjoying your. This is way back, like Tekken
Oh
7.
shit! Thank you.
I was like watching Harris Heller and Ludwig, and then I saw your stuff, and I was like, "Yeah, this is on point. This makes sense to me." So, like, I felt like it was hard to find good self help content in that sense. And when you think about it, like a lot of the creators that super blow up probably didn't do a lot of that. Like there are some who are very tactical about it, but it feels like they figured it out rather than following somebody else who kind of prescribed a formula.
Yeah.
So I only really followed the advice of people who I thought had demonstrated that success, rather than people who were just talking about it. So like Ludwig was probably the biggest example. He put out the video like "Don't start streaming until you watch this," and it was kind of like list 5 streamers you want to be like, list like some deadlines, list some like goals, like be very concrete about it. And I loved that. And Harris Heller had his multiple channels. He was like Vine famous before, and then like fell off, and then another YouTube channel, then fell off. So he had the unique perspective of somebody rebuilding brands multiple times. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, I those are probably my main 2 resources outside of talking to Speed directly. But with those content creator helper videos as well, it's easy to like watch and then not do. So like the do component was still the biggest hurdle, I think. Like and finding a format and a style that worked for me and worked for my audience kind of lifted that friction of like just do it, you know?
Yeah, I feel like I I have that big problem too of like I
Yeah.
love learning things, right? I think both
Yeah.
you and I are kind of like we just love learning, we love information, but sometimes you just hoard that information
Yeah. Yeah.
and you spend
Or
more
like just
time
sit on
learning
it.
than actually doing. So it's almost like what did someone call it? Mental masturbation, pretty much,
Yeah. No, yeah, like and
right?
if you think of like you think of like I Show Speed or like Kai Cenat, they're doing, they're uploading, they're posting, and it's like they are I am at like I'm not gonna say that they don't think about it. Like obviously they probably think about how they do their content and stuff like that. But there's so much of this element of like post and figure it out rather than craft the perfect thing in a lab, put it out. It gets like way less than you expect and then be disappointed. So I'm
Yeah,
very much a fan of the upload first and adjust after than the do it perfectly the first time.
it's cool to talk about content with people who like to do content, you know. And I think the reason why I started doing these podcasts again was because a lot of the people that I'm friends with are more industry people. And so they love content creators. They work with them all the time, but they don't necessarily make it themselves. So I can't get nerdy with
Right.
them about like the mentality behind a content creator or certain like whether it's tactics or strategies or just the philosophy of things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I agree. It's fun doing it with people who are like they have their hands in the mud.
And it can be kind of lonely sometimes too. I hear this from a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like in your room, you're doing it, and then the feedback that you get if you don't talk to other creator friends, is that the feedback, whether positive or negative, is just the audience or the numbers, right? And then,
Yep.
have you ever had like that problem of tying your self worth to the numbers?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm Asian.
Oh yeah, that's right, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But more than that, I think uh it's not just that, it's also as someone who is like not very like I feel like I'm an assimilator in many ways. So the opinions of the audience, even if I try to discount them, like shift the way I view things, right? So someone could be a total hater saying like something that I completely disagree with or don't believe, and I'll still like spend energy on it, right? So what I've realized is that reading the comments is more a risk than a benefit in the sense that it affects my ability to continue putting out good product, right? So I engage with the comments because I really enjoy when like my work has like a positive impact on people, but I have to be careful, especially when it's controversial times for Tekken and people are looking for somebody to beat up. So like when the stage map came out and people were all pissed, even now, like there's just comments on my videos and other people's videos that will like call me a shill for Bandai Namco, right? And
Right, saying that you're on their payroll and whatnot.
exactly, like it's everywhere, and it's so annoying because I wish I were paid to just be to be positive about the game, but I'm not, and I have to tank all the heat for it. But yeah, I there are times like that where it's if I were to read the comments regularly, it would stop me from putting out the content that is benefiting people who are enjoying my stuff, right? So I used to feel bad about missing people's comments or missing people's stream chats, for example. Like I wanted to see everything because if somebody's taking the time to comment, I wanted to be able to acknowledge that, right? But how I made the decision to do less of that, even though I want to, is that ultimately I want to keep uploading. I want to keep putting out good content. And when one had to give, it was reading the comments. Yeah.
I'm gonna derail for a second and come right back to this, because I want to get nerdy about tech for a second.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever tried using AI to sift through the comments?
No, I have not.
Yeah, this is something I did for someone, and it helped out a lot. So basically, I wrote it's just like a simple Python script, and as long as you have like the YouTube API from your Google account, you can do whatever you want. So I basically like downloaded every like a video's like entire comment section into a text file, fed it into ChatGPT, and then asked it to give me like constructive feedback based off of it. So you ignore all of like the really bad stuff, but only get the good stuff. And then if you wanted to like find the worth it comments to reply to, so you could find it without necessarily having to sift through all the bad stuff too and accidentally seeing it and having your mental be wrecked.
The problem I think I had was not that I went looking for the comments, it's that on the YouTube Studio app when I'm checking numbers or like doing uploads.
Oh, it's
They
there. It's on the
they put comments
dashboard.
on like every tab except for like the videos tab.
Yeah.
No matter where you go, there's a damn comment. So it's like it's there, and then I get sucked in through that. So it's not that
Oh,
that's where I found the problem to be is if I'm in the YouTube studio, I see a stray comment, positive or negative, I'm like, ooh, click. It's like it's very like animalistic. So uh, if I were looking for feedback, that makes sense. But usually I'm not even looking for feedback. It's more like, are people happy with just having learned or something? It's like I love the positive engagement, like people telling me they hit a certain rank. Like people tweet at me or like DM me all the time, like I hit a certain rank thanks to your videos, and I love that. Like I might not respond to it, but like I love that idea that it was like the work was positive, right? It had a positive result. I think that's huge. So that's the hard part to let go of, I think, more than getting necessarily feedback directly. It's just I love that very human interaction of like somebody taking the time to write something to me because it went well. Like I love that. But it's
oh,
compromised, yeah.
yeah. Okay, I see what you
Because
mean.
if I'm being honest, like if when it comes like getting other people's YouTube opinions on how to run my videos has almost never worked well. Like even
No.
in like I do a lot of videos live and my stream chat will have ideas about like titles and thumbnails, and like even in the moment, I'll be like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. That makes a lot of sense. And the video does terribly. So I'm just like, okay, like I have to trust myself just as the person doing it more often.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
To hop back onto the positivity thing, or your positive impact on the community, one, really amazing to see, right? That you are like the go-to person now to just learn Tekken, and it's really really cool to see your come up, and I think your influence or the impact that you've had has been so big that it's spread outside of the FGC, right? For example, like you were on Disguised for a little bit, you were with all the offline TV people, and then that has a ripple effect too because like Lily or Toast or Peter Park playing Tekken has probably gotten a lot of their friends interested, and so it's really cool to see just a couple of collaborations like have such a big impact on the FGC, and I think you'll still feel it into the future.
Yeah. I think it's cool that I just find it cool that it's not been such a short term thing, right? Like people will hop on Tekken and be like, game fell off, game's dead or whatever, but like Lily still plays, Box still wants to play when he has like a ability to justify it for his stream. Um, it's like very much I think in the rotation of games for a lot of these other streamers too, right? So like League season's hot right now, so everybody's back on League. But I bet when Tekken season 2 comes out, maybe like Evo's about to come around again. So many of them had a good time at Evo, they want to come back. So like I'm very very pleased, I think, with how it went. The fact that everybody pretty much left with a positive experience about Tekken is really cool, and I think that uh, I'm really looking forward to kind of the next season coming around, just because it's been so hectic in negativity these past few months. So I'm really looking forward to the bounce back.
How did you feel at first when, all these people from outside of the FGC that are big, well-known streamers started contacting you, being like, "Hey, can you coach me?" Like, was that a shock to you, or?
Yeah, definitely. But I feel like at the time, especially since that beginner guide where I was like 8+ hours a day editing a video, which is insane to me because I considering what I just talked about, how I hate the editing process, that was the most ridiculous project I've done. Since that till probably about a month ago, I was in this like battle high of just like eat sleep content, right? Like it was go go go, and when that happened, I didn't really, so I wasn't like gigantic like fans of those creators. Like I knew who they were and I thought what they did was cool, but I wasn't like watching them every day and kind of like really engaging in their content or their brands.
Mhm.
So when it happened, I was still very much in like a business administrative mode. I was like, what is the best way to do this as a coach? What is the best way to do this as like a human, right? Because like as a coach, you can go about it in so many ways. You can go about it like make their improvement better or teach them cheese so they just like win quickly and like get like a quick high. There's lots of ways to go about it. So I was very much in that mode more than kind of like, oh my God, what a like this is huge. So people would tell me it was huge, like that's so exciting, and I was kind of just kind of looking to the next move in terms of like just the nitty gritty of it, right? So it wasn't until kind of after Evo where I kind of got to zoom out and be like, wow, this was really, really cool. you know, like leading up through Evo with all the coaching and the events, AGM Slam, stuff like that. It was very much, yeah, it felt like a very like battle high business mode, kind of like not a lot of time to reflect. I was just kind of going.
And so, what has the reflections after Evo kind of taught you about yourself and the whole process?
Um, it gave me a lot more confidence in the idea that I can be entertaining. The longest, I think, misconception I had, especially in the league days, was that I had to be competitively strong to be entertaining, or like I had to be good to be entertaining. Which there's some elements of truth to that, right? Like if I didn't have demonstrated tournament results, people probably wouldn't have trusted me for coaching. If my students didn't do well, probably wouldn't be trusted for coaching either. So there is like this authority component to it that exists. But the idea that I can just my interactions with people can be funny. People enjoy getting coaching from me. Results like are part of it, but also the process is fun for them. That has been very validating. So I think that is probably the coolest part is that I have a lot more confidence going into a lot of the things I do. Like you asked if self-worth is tied to my numbers. I get upset about it or like preoccupied is probably a better word. Like it occupies my mind space. I'm not like tripping anymore if my numbers go down.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much like all right, what do I need to do differently? Like what is is it the landscape of Tekken right now? Are people just generally upset with the game, or is my content that much worse? Navigating that, it's more of a preoccupation. So I have a lot more confidence in myself as a creator, but when things are in a low swing, now I start thinking like, do I need to make big changes? Do I stick to what I'm doing? It's less about me and more about my process and things like that. So it's still like a stressor in the sense that it's like financial. It affects how I go about my day to day, but it's less existential now since all of these very validating experiences.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's almost kind of like your ego doesn't get hurt as much, but now you're just seeing it from like a process, like more of business actually, right? If we will go back to
Yeah.
that business versus artist thing, you're like, okay, cool. As an artist or like as a coach, as a player, like I know I'm good. I'm pretty fulfilled. There are things that will still probably bother you because that's just human, but now
Yeah.
you're looking at it from like a more objective lens and like, how do I improve these things?
Yeah, honestly, the biggest things that bother me now are more as a competitor than as a creator. I think I have a lot of confidence as a creator in not just what I do, but my ability to make mistakes and adjust. Like if something flops or if I do really poorly, I have this, all those experiences have kind of given me this like poise where I'm like, I'll mess up, but it'll be okay. Being a competitor is where I really trip, like losing Sage M Slam. I was upset about that for like 2 months. I was like, I'm like I want to fight again. I want to go back to it. I want to play more Street Fighter. So competition like hits way harder ego wise than like I think the content game does.
Yeah. Has for the content side though, was there anything surprising that you learned from it's like maybe in how you approach things or at least the mindset between or comparing FGC content creators, right, from our space and the non-traditional FGC creators now, because I consider them FGC, right? Everyone who participated in Sage M Slam or who has tried fighting games now, personally for me.
Right.
But then like the traditional like variety streamers, right, that weren't part of the community before. Were there any differences in mindset that you saw?
Mindset in terms of making content.
Yeah, like how they approach it, because I mean, you obviously probably like talked to them about like content stuff, right? And maybe they had some insights or approaches that like came as a surprise to you that's so different from how FGC people approach content.
I actually didn't really talk much content with them specifically. I think part of that comes again from like the confidence and how I package my product. What I did was just kind of watch, I guess, like Boxbox's TFT content kind of feels like Eris's content, where the game is in the background and he'll talk about the game sometimes, but otherwise he's just talking about other topics, right? There's like, so that's a style I've always been interested in. I think it's very sustainable for creating a good stream because the stream is just kind of gaming and talking. So my second channel is kind of trying to move in that direction, but it wasn't from direct conversation, although I could probably ask him. But I think that kind of trusting my own study and then my conversations with Speed Kicks and like has probably helped me the most. I think it's like you said, it's a bit of a lonely endeavor, and like there's aside from talking to other creators, but I've also felt like part of I don't want to ruin like the magic of what makes me like presentable the way I am, right? I think that there is a real danger in the way I operate of like kind of diluting my personality, diluting my product if I am too flexible in absorbing different approaches. So there's a bit of rigidity in what I do to kind of protect that, right? Like I think there's very much like even on stream already, there's like a natural sanitization that kind of happens. Tony talks about like my YouTube voice. Like in YouTube, there's a different like
Oh, your
sanitization.
intros? Yeah.
Intros and even in game when I commentate versus like if I'm in Discord playing with friends, like I'm way more interactive, way more dynamic. And so trying to capture like that magic is something I try to keep in mind all the time. So when it comes to going about my content, especially for the second channel, which is to like build the stream up a bit more, I try to move about it in a close circle of like people who know me really well, and I think that these creators have really demonstrated success. But I think except for like Lily, who does know me like probably more than other people, I didn't really like go back and forth a lot about like the details about putting the content together.
People who are interested in creating content that are in the FGC, like, what do you think that they could improve on that you see like a lot of mistakes that they're making?
So I occasionally watch other FGC content, like of like new people, but not a lot. And I think title and thumbnail is already so big, right? People have fallen into traps also of like self promotion in Discord. Like I don't think that works very well. I think that you have to play the algorithm. There's people who make informational content. There's a mixed bag. There's like people who are really good but don't upload, and then people who upload but don't really package the content at all. They hit record and talk. And like I'm glad they are uploading, but I think that there is a small market for people who are patient enough to really just sit and watch a screen of a practice mode character standing still and then kind of like not very well connected thoughts about how to operate a certain character, right? So I think that there just needs to be more, I think, improvement in the skill itself of kind of presenting the information. And then title and thumbnail is the interesting one because I feel like the FGC doesn't have necessarily bad title and thumbnails objectively. It's just like 5 to 10 years behind, right? Like there are a lot of the conceptions of the YouTube game, like you won't believe this trick or whatever, is like so 2010, you know what I mean? 2012.
Right. And people understand that, have adapted like their preferences or like how they filter out content that they want to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that maybe that's just because the FGC naturally has an older player base or audience, or for one reason or another. But basically, I think that people are still trying what their idea of YouTube is rather than looking at it, right? And kind of like going through the experience of opening up YouTube on your TV, seeing what you naturally want to click on, and then adapting that to your creative process. And I've done the same thing. I've done tons of titles and thumbnails in that super old style because it's what I thought would work, rather than actually opening YouTube and trying it, like simulating the experience using like I don't do this. I barely do this, but in sometimes opening up like a thumbnail simulator website or whatever and putting in my title and thumbnail and see if it's clickable. I like almost never do that, but I think that's good to use. It's something that like do as I say, not as I do. I think it's a good thing to use. So
right.
I think there are people who, I'm glad they're uploading, but lots of like skill refinement to be made.
Yeah, I think I don't know if what you said was intentional, but you said turning on the TV, right? And I think that's something that maybe some people forget, like, or just early creators in general, is that there is TV, there's phone, there's computers, there's tablets, there's a lot of different
I learned
formats.
Recently is that the YouTube like smart TV user base is huge.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I actually watch your videos more on TV and desktop than I do on mobile. because they're so
Yeah.
long, and I want to actually, if I'm trying to watch something, I want to sit down and actually intentionally watch, right?
That's
Because
awesome.
it's so long.
If I were a consumer of PhiDX content, I'm not gonna lie, I would put it on my phone and like could do something else. So like that's
Well, I
cool. I
have to look
appreciate
at
that
what you're
it's
trying to talk
engaging.
about, you know?
Yeah,
So if I'm listening to someone like Colin Samir, like they're talking, and sometimes they may have like visuals, but I
yeah,
can get what they're talking about because it's all conceptual, right? If
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just about YouTube. But when you're
yeah,
teaching and you're talking about this move versus that move, or like this specific match, I have to watch and pay attention.
yeah. When I watch Gotham chess, I'm not good at chess at all, and I can't visualize the board at all. But sometimes I'll just listen to the story he's telling, and then there will be moves happening. I'm like, all right, cool, yeah, whatever. So like, yeah, I'll cook and throw on Gotham chess, and like something cool happens, I'll peek and like rewind a bit, and then just go back. And I've crafted my content, I think, so that it can be enjoyed in that style. It can be enjoyed directly, analytically, and I think
Hmm.
that's the benefit of that format and having such a direct inspiration in terms of who I could study. I didn't mention him earlier, but also I think Cypher PK, the Fortnite creator,
Oh
also
yes.
somebody I'm heavily inspired by because he used to do educational commentary, moved into like entertainment. He does like a mix of both,
Hmm.
and his was my inspiration for the Fee plays each character kind of like playlist series where he used to do educational commentaries where he would just talk and play a Fortnite game, and it wasn't the most high level gameplay, but it was high level enough for most of the audience, right? Like so, in the same way, I might not put out the cleanest Kazuya ever. In fact, it's actually really ugly. But I can just joke about doing a bad combo, move on, and win, and it's still entertaining, you know. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't get tripped up over the tiny things, and I heavily credit like these other creators for kind of like giving me a very clear picture of what that kind of content looks like.
Really quick about the titles and thumbnails. Did you again learn from watching, just like observing, or did you actually like intentionally seek out information to learn like best practices for thumbnails and titles?
It was talking to Speed Kicks. We did titles and thumbnails over and over, and like he
Oh,
he did all the kind of watching and looking,
yeah.
and I just kind of threw things at the wall. And it wasn't until we did it for a significant amount of time that I felt like I could watch other thumbnails and understand why it was clickable, right? Like
That's
kind of like,
so
and
cool.
I think the aha moment came from the YouTube TV, the smart TV. I
Yeah.
opened it up once, saw my thumbnails, and something about doing it on the TV made it kind of click. Like in the web simulators, it didn't really hit because I was kind of already looking for my thumbnails. On the phone, phone was a good test. I would test the phone often on a separate account to see if it was on the subscriber feed, if it was clickable. But that YouTube TV really made the big difference. I think how the suggestions popped up, how it showed up. It's so eyes glaze over mode. Something about sitting on the couch and scrolling the TV puts me in the what I feel like is like the average consumer brain mindset. Sitting at a desk is different, being on my phone is different, but at the TV my brain shuts off just enough that the title thumbnail has to be good for me to click on it, even my own.
Yeah.
So that experience was also a big like, oh, I get it now. Like this is how you do it. So I still make mistakes and I still have like a mixed bag about it, but I think when I get really lost, like I'm actually due for it recently. My Maximilian videos, I have a few opinions on why I don't think they're doing as well as I thought. I think it's partially because they're semi re-uploads of what he did,
Hmm.
but uh, yeah, I want to try sitting at my TV and just seeing if the thumbnails feel clickable to me.
Okay. The thing that's really interesting to me is like the way you decided to go about learning YouTube, because the way I went about it first is actually like looking for other people to teach it, right? Like I went for those like, vidIQ channels. TubeBuddy has a channel too,
Yeah,
and a bunch of other people like Patty Galloway, right? They all
yeah,
have
Patty Galloway. Yeah.
expertise on YouTube, and they teach best practices for titles and thumbnails. Whereas you basically just went in with speed kicks and just iterated multiple times to get to the same point.
And I think a key information point is I started looking at those information channels. It just didn't translate to like action, or it didn't translate to results on my end, right? Like
Mm.
I loved consuming that content, but it didn't work in terms of turning me into a creator. Hence why I talk a lot about do, because I think iterating and doing has so much value. It's not that the information is useless. I think the information is really good, but there's that old Christian phrase like faith without work is dead, right? And I think in the same way, information without action is you just won't see the results. And I think in the same way that I'm a huge Patty Galloway and like vidIQ consumer as well.
Yeah.
But I learned after my recent experience that theory crafting doesn't always just like put you in the field. It doesn't get the video done, you know? So
Yeah. And,
yeah.
and I think that's like the thing. Oops, sorry.
No, oh yeah, I was gonna say, and like the lessons learned just stick so much harder when you're the one doing it. Like I copied the Jiven style, it didn't really work. I copied, I created like my own hybrid style of like ambiguous title, like for tournament footage, it didn't really work. It's something about the Gotham format just works so well. Like I think that I wouldn't have found that unless I was doing, and talking, rather than kind of just consuming like content packaged to appeal to someone like me that's interested. It's like a fine, like I think it's a subtle difference, but I think it turns out to be very huge in what comes out.
Like you said, it's a balance, and maybe
Yeah.
gamers fall into this pitfall like even more, especially competitive gamers, if they try to make
Yeah.
YouTube videos, because we're so used to theory crafting shit,
Exactly, yeah.
right?
Yeah, and I think that it's part of the fun, right? It's like you said, like consuming that stuff and learning is fun. So differentiating that fun from the fun of doing and learning is also I would call that a skill as well.
Yeah.
I would call that like developing the skill of reaping the reward from the action rather than the
Result.
yeah. No, well, the action versus like the learning process.
Oh, okay. Yes, I see.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And just trying to not get tilted, right? Like, so if you're like playing ranked and you lose and you're like, fuck, all that time and I lost points. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, what am
Yeah.
I doing this for? And then like you spend all that time, you make a video, you upload, it doesn't do well, and your motivation's just gone. And then those
Yeah.
people just don't upload again, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
another thing to your do. And I'm in that mindset now too, where I'm just like, fuck it. I'm not gonna overthink anymore because I overthink too much about the what ifs and trying to like, project a future that doesn't necessarily exist because you can't actually do that. And it's
Yeah.
just all in your head.
Yeah, you are going to, and you're going to be better at kind of reading, at least with some accuracy, what might come in the future, the more you actually do it. I think that experience is such a good teacher, and I've underrated it historically in like everything I do. So I think that having that direct experience is really, really cool.
Yeah, you hit with Snake Edge like 10 times, you could probably see Snake Edge the 11th.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully. Not me,
Hopefully, we can only try.
Yeah.
All right. Future plans. You've done Sage M Slam, collaborated with some of the biggest streamers, content creators. Where do you want to take your career next, or like how do you want to evolve it?
I think it's a tough question. I think that Tekken is so cool, and I love playing it genuinely. Not paid by Bandai Namco. I wish I could keep doing Tekken the most. I think that as a creator, there will come a time where I probably outgrow Tekken, and I'm kind of not dreading that day, but it doesn't bring me a lot of excitement to move past Tekken. It's kind of a bittersweet thing. Like I think that I will need to out of necessity for myself. Yeah, I just think Bandai Namco doesn't handle Tekken very well for a creator to stay active in it unless you're the main man, like the biggest one, right? So 2XKO looks really promising. I think Riot's infrastructure is historically pretty good for creators. I think that I'm in a weird position where I'm a Tekken expert, but not a fighting game expert. So I don't think I'm positioned very, very well to be a 2XKO creator yet. So I'm debating diverting energy into learning like Skullgirls and other tag fighters to try and get better at that. But yeah, 2XKO is on the horizon. That's probably the most prominent thing. But otherwise, I'm still kind of day to day. It's like do as much Tekken as I can on stream, try and diversify a bit. My second channel post things that are diversified that still show the fun of like PhiDX so that it's interesting to people. So I'm in the box boot camp, and I don't even know if that's going to turn into cool clips or anything. But I've been having fun playing TFT, even though like historically I've had like a mixed relationship with the game. Like sometimes it's really fun. Sometimes I'm like, okay, this is a lot of time. But right now specifically, I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm kind of interested in seeing if fun content comes out of that, just because I have a bit more time in this like low season of Tekken. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. Just keep doing my thing. I have 2x scale. I would love to play more League, unfortunately. So lots of stuff like that.
I mean, it's pretty hype right now. I've just, finished watching
It
the
is.
Act 2 of Arcane, and like
Yeah.
everyone's pretty hyped for the IP, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
feels pretty good. When
It
everyone is
does.
like rallying behind something they all like.
Yes, it's cool to have people excited about something.
Cool. Is there anything else in particular that you wanted to say to aspiring content creators that we didn't necessarily get to talk about?
I think we covered most of it. Really, it's just keep doing and then like keep looking. Like I think I talked about wanting to do my own thing, but really it's a lot of observation, I think, more than like information gathering, right? Like look at the titles and thumbnails, sit at your TV, like sit at your computer, like try all these different things. Like Ludwig talks about showing your video to somebody, like would you show it to a friend? I think that works for specific styles of content. Like my videos do have an FGC slant or like a nerd slant. So I'd probably show it to another nerd, but like otherwise, yeah, I think it's a lot of doing and observing. I don't want to discourage looking at like meta content creation content because I think it does have value, but I think it's certainly a trap where it can feel like you're doing a lot by learning how all this content is made, and then ultimately you're not making content. So like upload.
Oh yeah, thank you. And where can people find you?
At PhiDX Games on Twitter. What is my YouTube /PhiDX? I have like I want my Twitter to just be PhiDX so it can be the same everywhere. But Twitter is PhiDX Games. Everywhere else, Twitch and YouTube is PhiDX.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and having this conversation with me, man. It's been really, really fun.
Yeah, it's fun for me too. Thanks so much.